See you in this place tonight. I'm honored that you would share with me in my opening exhibition, Venerations. Where to begin? There's something in my hands. There's something in my hands. There's something in my hands. This is the refrain in my 20s, in my 30s, in my 40s. I'm about to tell you my age in a minute. In my 50s. No, before my 50s. That was a refrain that just kept coming up over and over again. I had been a really artistic child. I asked my mother for a calligraphy set. I asked my mother for art supplies. I asked my mother for an easy bake oven, which I never got. Oh, no. Pray my strength in the Lord. There was creative impulses in me from the time as far back as I can remember. And as I got older, I got farther and farther away from those creative impulses. And the only thing that lingered for me was my music. I play piano. I don't play much anymore. But that's the only thing that lingered into my 20s and my 30s. I played for churches from Virginia to North Carolina took me all the way to California where I played. That was the last congregation that I played for. And so that was my creative outlet. But there was something else. There was something else that was lingering. There was something else that was in my hands. So I would be driving in my car, literally, and get to the stoplight, and it would happen time and time again, at least once a week. I'd look down at my hands and say, God, I'm supposed to be doing something with my hands. Into my 20s, into my 30s, into my 40s. And so candles have always been a part of something that grounded me. I don't know what it is about. It's the flame. It's the scent. I'm super sensitive to scent. And I walked into a store in 2015, picked up a candle, and I literally heard a voice. Nobody called 911. I'm not that crazy. I literally heard a voice that said, you can make this. It was nowhere on my radar. Went home like a madman, got onto Google, how to make a candle. I had done some things in art class. I had carved candles in high school and some other things. But I had never made a candle from start to finish. Long story short, I ordered some candle making supplies and I started making candles in 2015. And I sent some to my sister-in-law and my mother, and they loved them. Of course they loved them. They're my sister-in-law and my mother. And I started making candles, and that was my creative outlet in 2016. And thought of a name, 228 Grant Street. That's the address of my late grandparents in the bustling metropolis of Danville, Virginia. That's a laugh line, you can laugh right there. It's not a bustling metropolis. I started making candles, and 2016, my husband, Bryant, he graciously did not fuss because I stripped all the counters, because the solvent in the fragrance strips the surface of the counters, and I was a candle maker, and I was enjoying the trip. 2017 was in about 8 stores. 2018 doubled that. 2019, 20 stores. 2020, we did our first trade show in Atlanta.
I was there. I remember that.
Yeah. You stopped by the booth, Casey. Did our first trade show, and we were coast to coast. 80 stores when we left that trade show. And I was enjoying this journey of creativity and had found my niche. And you all know what happened, beginning of 2020. The pandemic happened, went home. We were sitting on the sofa, and I get notifications from Shopify when people make a sale. And I ain't been dinging since I've been here. But so I heard all of these ding, 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 ding. I was like, what the hell is going on? And look, did the analytics, figure out where the traffic was coming from. It was coming from New York Magazine had featured us on Twitter, brands to support during the pandemic. That was retweeted like 45,000 times. We did a year's worth of business in one day. Yeah, wow, we had no inventory. Yeah. I called all my teacher friends, said, get your asses over here, we gotta make candles. They came, and we made candles and shipped candles from where we were living, and got all those candles shipped. And 8 weeks later, we moved back to the studio, sitting at the desk, got an email, this is blah, 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 from Jill Stills and Deals from the Today Show. We heard about you, we'd like to feature you. Wow. We did 3 years of business in one day. Yeah, wow, no inventory. I called all my friends, called Fred Brother in North Carolina, who had a soap company. He had gone viral on Tom Joyner Morning Show, and he said, bro, we're gonna get you through this. And he held my hand, and we got through it, and we got all those orders shipped. And I called a friend who had a soap company, Fran, here in Baltimore. And so if you got a candle during that time that had a crooked label, it's because I had all these church mothers. I had about 12 church mothers. We were shipping candles from my studio in Pigtown, and we got all that done. And then week 10, I got an email, this is blah, 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 David Muir's producer from ABC World News. We'd like to feature you tonight on Made in America. It was a Wednesday. I said, this is great, but hell no. Because I've been working 8 days a week. You know, your sister was right there, Sister Quetta. And been working 8 hours a day, 8 days a week, 26 hours a day. We did it, sent the video. That was a Wednesday. We did about 4 years of business that Wednesday. I sent the producer an email that next morning saying thank you for this incredible opportunity. David Muir closed the next night by saying, and I just want to end tonight by saying thank you for supporting 228 Grant Street in Baltimore, Maryland. They had over 3,000 orders, blah, blah, blah. We had the same amount of orders that night. Friday night, they did a wrap-up of the week. My big ass head was the only video they showed for the week. And so, all from I walked into a store in 2015, picked up a candle, heard a voice that said, you can make this. And what that has done, it's brought me back to myself. Because I was working in higher ed, I was working for denominations, doing diversity, and I was in meetings to plan another meeting, to plan another meeting, to plan another meeting. Some of y'all know that life. Colleen, you know that life. Bazelle, I know you know that life. And there was something that I wanted to do something else because I knew that there was something else I needed to do. And that brought me back front and center to my art practice and to the playfulness of making art is what I was created to do. And inspiring others in that journey. And so what that has afforded is the most blessed thing in that journey has been the ability to offer workshops to the community. And so I have subversively become the evangelist of creativity. And Carleen has attended. Raise your hand, Carly. Carly has attended maybe 5 workshops, at least 5, 6. Yeah. And so I tell my story and I lean in, and folks have walked away from those workshops. They have started, folks have picked up their paintbrushes who haven't painted in 20 years. Folks have started community gardens. Folks have started, worked on business plans in those workshops. And there were 2 people, there was a woman from Philly at one table, another woman from Philly at another table. They didn't know one another. They met, they started a book club over 4 years ago. I just saw them a couple months ago. That book club is still going on. They are meeting, they're supporting one another. And the stories just go on and on and on. There's someone who started crocheting and met some other crocheters in one of the classes, and they connected and they had some meetups, and it has just been story after story. So this has been a journey in creativity, and so much so that I started a doctorate years ago in counseling, and life took some turns. But I came back to that academic journey, and I am about to complete my academic journey this May. And my final project is on the power of creativity to transform individual and collective lives. And I've put my journey in conversation with the journey of other creatives, like the journey of my best friend, Dr. Sean Crawley, who is a scholar, artist, writer, lover of Black folks and the world, and committed to making this world a better place. And so I am so grateful. So the work, I want to tell you a little bit about the work. So the work is Venerations. That's the name of this endeavor, and it starts with those sainted mothers. I was claimed by church at an early age, claimed by the Baptist and the Pentecostal church, and it formed so much of my life. So that's where it starts, and I could say much more about that. The next piece there, I'm not going to talk about every piece, but I do want to just highlight a couple pieces, especially on that wall. So the second piece there, in the bottom left-hand corner, you'll see two men. They came to me in a dream. Their names are Clarence and Robert. It was one of the most vivid dreams I've ever had. They were a gay couple during the golden era of gospel music. During the Clara Ward era. They were a couple, but they were fighting. And in the dream, I was in the car with Clarence. Clarence sent me into the house to get his robe from Robert because he wasn't talking to Robert. They were the most feisty couple, and it was the most vivid dream. And the dream ended with "Tell our story." The next piece is my grief journey. I lost my mother. My mother and I, we've always been close, but we became really close after my father passed. And we spent a lot of time together and talked every day. And so I've been on a journey with grief of losing my mother and what that has meant. And so I've been sitting with it and welcoming that grief and what it has meant. It means deep love. So I'm a genealogy buff. That is part of my ancestral work, is to unearth the stories and the names. Because many of us can name our grandparents, but we can't name our great-grandparents. We can't name our great-great-grandparents. That information is readily available now through Ancestry if we do take the time But it's important, and my ancestors, I believe, have been speaking to me and have been gifting me with many things throughout this journey. So the tobacco, it represents, I'm from Danville, Virginia. Danville was one of the hubs of tobacco production in Virginia. And many of my family members, all my grandfather's sisters, worked in tobacco plants, processing tobacco. You know something about tobacco. And I did not know, growing up all of my life, that my grandfather's mother, Mary Bell Eccles, died leaving third shift out of a tobacco factory. She dropped dead in the alley of the tobacco factory. A street that we pass by like every day. I spent my entire life not knowing that my great-grandmother passed in that street. So the compounded grief of not sharing that story, and I wanted to honor that and honor the labor of my forebears who spent days toiling in those fields, slave labor. And so the tobacco that's a running theme throughout many of those pieces is to honor them. The next piece is my mother. That fourth piece, my mother is in that photo. And the textile is from the textile mill, Dan River Mills, which was the largest textile mill in the country. It was produced in, that's where he worked. And the textiles in that assemblage are from that textile mill, from the era when he was working there. So it pays homage to him and them. The next photo is my Uncle Thurman, who is 15 in that photo. That 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That fifth photo, that's my Uncle Thurman being arrested at the age of 15 for organizing protests. He wouldn't stop, so they arrested my grandfather. He still wouldn't stop, so they arrested my grandmother. I recently found a picture of a mass protest of all the children, and my mother is in that photo of, Dr. King said that Danville would have been the center of the civil rights struggle had Selma and Montgomery not been, because it was so explosive, and what was happening in Danville, Virginia was so egregious. So that pays homage. There's a thin line of tobacco running through that. So that is what grounds this work. Radical resistance. 228 Grant Street is my late grandmother's address in Danville, Virginia, and it was, she had a little front porch there where she received strangers and folks that she knew. And the thing about my grandmother is that you never left her front porch without being offered something that was made by her hands. She always had some turnip greens in the freezer. And she kept them in little bags that she could just pop on the stove and warm up, heat up before the days of microwave, that anybody who was passing by could have something to eat before they left. There was a man, Aubrey, up the street. He drank way too much OE. Some of y'all know about OE. Old English, cheap beer, malt liquor beer. And he would stumble down the street and get sober on my grandmother's porch. And it was that place of radical hospitality. All the women from the neighborhood would make their way to her porch sometime during the week to tell them about their no-good husbands. And she was like the therapist for the neighborhood. She was the grounding for the neighborhood. She was on the kitchen committee, covered dish dinners. She was on the kitchen committee at the church. And when my grandmother brought her food in, it went straight to the kitchen and stayed in the kitchen for the people who were working in the kitchen, because they weren't going to serve it to everybody else because the food was that good. So So my work pays homage to those folks and many others. We spent time past summer on Martha's Vineyard, and she was the first Black woman ordained in the Episcopal Church, queer woman. She was an attorney. She was an Episcopal priest. Many of the works of Ruth Bader Ginsburg were based on her work that Ruth Bader Ginsburg stole. So she was the brain behind many of those cases for women's equality and for the rights of all people. So she is one of my heroes and one of my North Stars. So I'm just honored that you would spend a couple hours with me pondering and thinking. My doctoral work invites you to consider a couple questions. What's in your hand? Your metaphorical hand. What have you been given? Who are your people? And who are your teachers? Because remembering who our teachers are points to the things that we were listening, the things that we were listening to and most attuned to. So Barbara Holmes, the late Barbara Holmes, asked that question, who are your teachers? So I'll leave you with those three things. What's in your hand? It's late in the day. Who are your teachers? And who are your people? And thank you for coming tonight.